So today I'm going to help you get started with Think Diffusion in ProjectOdyssey's AI film competition. We're going to be using the falling 3D character, and I'm going to get you a workflow to get started in Comfy UI. So first you're going to head over to Think Diffusion. You're going to click Launch App. You're going to select Comfy. We're going to use the Turbo Machine since we are generating videos which take more resources than usual. So we want a fast machine for that. You can use the slower machines, but we might be getting out of memory issues and it's going to take a lot of time. So I tend to just use the turbo machines, which have 24 gigabytes of VRAM. And whenever that's finished, you're going to see something like this, or more likely, you're going to see this, which is the default workflow. So you're going to download a workflow like this, and you're going to drag and drop it into your Comfy UI. This workflow you can get from thinkdiffusion.com/learn. And this is something called Animate Diff. This is built upon a workflow made initially by Inner Reflections. And it works by loading a video here. We're setting the sizes here. We're loading a stable diffusion model. We're telling the model what we want. In this case, man falling in Cyberpunk Neon Neo Tokyo Blade Runner world. We had a lot of basic negative prompts, which is what we don't want. You can just leave that default. Up here, we have a frame load cap, which basically means how many frames of this animation down here do we want to load. I usually set this to around 12 just to fine tune my animation. This is to mean that I want to make sure I see what I get before I render the full animation. Select every NTH here. This is if you want to skip frames. For example, if you're doing this at 12, and the character is just like going a couple of frames like this, and you want to see a larger animation, you can skip frames and you will see a larger animation. Let me show you in a second. So if we're doing this for 12 frames and not skipping anything, you can see we're just getting a small piece here. But if we would skip a couple of frames, let's say we just take every third frame and we generate this again, it will take every third frame, and the animation that we will see once this is finished will have a longer motion. It will still only be 12 frames, but we will see more of it. Now this will take a minute or two. What's happening here is that it's reading this animation, it sends it through ControlNet, and it's actually generating depth map of this, and it's generating an open pose, so it sees the character here through our ControlNet preprocessors. Then it applies ControlNet models for us to be able to use these stills of the character, and then it generates our animation in a new style. And as you can see from this character here to our very rough preview here, it's a completely different color and style. We can see here now that our animation is where the arms and legs are moving further and still just using 12 frames. At the default, we are generating with 15 steps in the sampler Euler A. You can experiment with this if you want to, but it's a good base value if you just want to get started and play with it. If you feel that you need a little more quality, you can try to increase the steps, maybe 20, 25, but you should get fairly far with 15. Depending on the model that you load, you will get different results. The same with the prompt here. So try different, see what you feel, and experiment. Now remember, if you are dropping this workflow in and you're getting a bunch of errors, you're getting nodes that are red, or you are either fully red or with red borders, purple borders, whatever, you need to go into the manager here. You need to install missing custom nodes. There's going to be a list here. Press install on all of them. After that, you might be missing some models, so check out the models that you need. For example, this one. If you're missing the VE, go into the manager, search for models, search for 84, install that, and that goes for any model that you might need. It could be the ControlNet models, it could be the Animate Diff one. So in this, for example, you could search for Animate Diff, and you can find here V3ST15. In this case, the ControlNet, we have the depth and then open pose. Go into the manager, install models, search for depth, and make sure it's ControlNet and the base is 1.5. So here we have the ControlNet depth for 1.5. Install that. The same with OpenPose, ControlNet 1.5, OpenPose, Safe Tensors, install. Depending on the workflow that you are using, there might be other models that you need to install. And if you want to install something from Civiteye, you can just go into your Comfy UI folder, models, checkpoints, and you can actually upload either by dropping here or submitting the Civiteye link. Now, when you find a style that you are happy with, you can set either the load cap to 0, which will get all the frames, or you can set, for example, 100 and do 100 at a time. And then you could do, for the next batch, you could skip the first 100 and do the next 100. So there are many ways to go about doing this. Just remember that if you are doing this, you need to set this to fixed. So this is the seed, this is your starting point. If you have this to random, it will generate a new starting point each time. So that will not retain your settings. These depth maps and open poses here are just approximations of this input. Now, with the ProjectOdyssey contest, there are better versions. So if you check the assets pack, you can actually see that there are a depth map, there's an open pose, there's a line art video. So this open pose video is going to be better than the one that you're estimating here. That's because this was made from an actual 3D program, and you can use that instead. And if you want to do that, and I recommend that you do if you're trying to achieve the best results possible, what you can do is you can take this. Here is the preprocessor for the control net, and instead of this, we're just going to load video, and we're just going to select our open pose here. So now we have this, and instead of having the preprocessor image going into the control net, I'm going to take this image and drop that in. So I'm actually going to remove this, and I'm going to remove this preview, and I'm going to do the same. I'm just going to copy paste this. I'm going to load the depth, and I'll drop that instead of this depth preprocessor. I'm just going to remove that, and I'm going to take this and take that image into this apply control net. So what's happening here now is we're doing basically the same thing as we did previously, but we're using better input. Just bear in mind that the settings that you use here need to correlate with the ones here. Well, you can set these, the frame load cap, that can still be 0, that's fine. But if you have, for example, if you're skipping frames here and you're not skipping frames here, you're going to have a bad time. Or if you're having a load cap here and maybe a lower load cap here, say you set this to 5, you're also going to have a bad time. The easiest way is to have these at 0 and just remember to have the same skipping number here. And now if you generate this again, first of all, it's going to be a little quicker because the preprocessor doesn't need to work. These images are already generated, so they don't need to take that preprocessor image from the input. And also the quality is going to be a little bit higher in our end result. And in a second here, our render or generation has finished. After this, the images are going to be transformed into this video combine, and here you can set the settings for what you're looking for. Maybe you want an MP4, maybe you want a ProRes, whatever. There you can even get a looping GIF. This is now set at a frame rate of 12, maybe you want it 24, 25. Now we have a different animation here. And when you're happy, let's say that you're happy with that, you can just set this to 0 or however many frames you want and let it run to finish your animation. For more guides and tutorials on how to get started with Stable Diffusion in Think Diffusion, check out thinkdiffusion.com/learn. And I hope you're going to create something amazing for the ProjectOdyssey competition. Have fun!